Shall we begin? Good afternoon. Please take seats. I call the meeting of the General Committee on Political Affairs and Security to order. Dear colleagues, our first order of business is to adopt the agenda for today's meeting. It has been available outside, and I hope you've had a chance to look at it. It's very straightforward. Are there any objections to the adoption of the agenda? If not, the agenda is hereby adopted. Thank you very much, and let me welcome you all to this meeting of the first committee within the 26th annual session of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly. Let me first recognize and greet our committee's vice chair, Mr. Guillermo Picchi from Italy, and our rapporteur, Ms. Margareta Sederfeld from Sweden. I would also like to recognize our committee staff from the Assembly, our dear friend, Deputy Secretary General Payares, Advisor Poulen, and our procedural guide from the United Kingdom House of Commons, Ms. Wellfoot. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your hard work. I want to begin by thanking the authorities and the Parliament of Belarus for hosting us for this annual session. Over 1 million Belarusians were killed during World War II, well more than 20% of the population. Belarusians understand, like few others, the importance of the OSCE's work in preventing armed strife in Europe. We are grateful for the positive contributions Belarus has made to address tension in the region, including providing good offices to the OSCE. We're all familiar with the conflict resolution mechanisms regarding Ukraine and Nagorno-Karabakh, which take their names from Minsk. I'm happy that as their country hosts these meetings, more Belarusians will have an opportunity to learn about the work that the OSCE does for democracy, human rights, economic growth, and the environment. Before we begin the business of the committee today, I would like to make two administrative points. I want to make two more points and then some administrative announcements. First, I want to express my deepest condolences to the citizens of the OSCE countries that have faced tragedy at the hands of terrorists since the committee last met. Since our winter meeting concluded in February, the President of our Assembly has had to lament and condemn 3 separate terrorist attacks in London, as well as attacks in Manchester, Stockholm, St. Petersburg, and Alexandria, Virginia. We mourn with the victims and the families who lost loved ones. These attacks should galvanize our work, both within the Parliamentary Assembly and the OSCE. We could play a meaningful role in bringing together participating nations to confront terrorism, and we should remain dedicated to supporting our allies and partners in this important endeavor. My second point concerns a unique tragedy that confronted the OSCE since our last meeting in Vienna in February. The first death ever in the line of duty of an OSCE mission member. We were all dismayed at the events of April 23rd, in which American paramedic Joseph Stone was killed while serving as a member of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission in Ukraine. His vehicle struck an explosive, likely a landmine, in separatist-controlled territory, an event that also injured monitors from the Czech Republic and Germany. Mr. Stone's tragic death and the injuries to his colleagues that day reflect the increasingly severe harassment and danger faced by these brave OSCE monitors on a daily basis. For example, just a few days ago, on June 20th, a special monitoring mission patrol came under fire from 2 men in military-style attire, armed with an assault rifle. The attackers also tried to enter the monitors' vehicles by force. Thankfully, these monitors escaped unharmed, but it is clear that this or other similar events could have ended much differently. Given these exceptional circumstances, I have asked the head of the monitoring mission in Ukraine, Ambassador Ertuğrul Apakan, to conduct a short briefing to describe in more detail the challenges faced by the OSCE monitors and the implications of the April 23rd attack in particular. I'm grateful that he has agreed to join us by video conference today at the bottom of the hour, precisely 2:30. Colleagues, I've mentioned only a few of the significant and multifaceted challenges before us. I look forward to our discussion. I hope we emerge with a better sense of each other's positions, as well as constructive ideas on how to address our shared challenges. Now for a few administrative remarks regarding the organization of our meetings here in Minsk. First, on behalf of our excellent interpreters who are at the back of the auditorium, I would like to appeal to any of my colleagues who plan to speak from a prepared text to provide that text in advance to the Secretariat staff. This would help our interpreters. Our interpreters are talented, but this will help to make the translations even more precise. And secondly, regarding the election of committee officers, please be reminded that the election will take place during the committee's final session, which will take place on Saturday, July 8 at 9 a.m. Nominations for candidates for election as committee officers should be handed into the table office no later than the start of that session, 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Third, let me briefly run through the schedule and timing for our committee. The committee is scheduled to have 4 meetings during the session, and we have a full slate of business. At the bottom of the hour, I would reiterate that Ambassador Apakan will be speaking to us. In the meantime, we are going to hear the report from our rapporteur, Ms. Sederfeld, on the theme of this year's annual session, Enhancing Mutual Trust and Cooperation for Peace and Prosperity in the OSCE region. Once we finish that work and the draft resolution, we will consider supplementary items that the Standing Committee has assigned to our committee. We will debate and consider 2 supplementary items covering the issues of restoration of sovereignty and territorial integrity in Ukraine, proposed by Mr. Gerasimov of Ukraine, and secondly, the draft resolution on strengthening the role of the OSCE in countering terrorism, proposed by Mr. Kovalyov of the Russian Federation. 3 amendments have been proposed to these supplementary items, and so we will then have an opportunity for discussion and intervention. So now let's move to Ms. Sederfeld, and she will now present her annual report. And let's recognize Margareta Sederfeld and show our appreciation for her hard work as our rapporteur.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Dear delegates, honorables, I am serving my 3rd period as rapporteur, and this year I must say that it has been a pleasure to write the report, but also a lot of challenges. We could see in our area that there is an increased level of insecurity. Could also see that there is a lack of freedom, political instability. But I must also remind that there are positive situations. Most people in the OSCE region live in peace, live in democracy, and feel secure. But we as parliamentarians could do much more to support peace, stability, security. And that's what my report is about, what we can do. I do also want to mention that when it was the end line, stop date for the report, there have happened a lot of things after that. And it's of course not in the report. And I am therefore very grateful for all the amendments, 37, and for the supplementary items, because they highlight issues that are so important for us to debate and make decision on. In my report, I have focused on 6 items. It's cybersecurity, terrorism, Turkey, women in peace building, the Russian aggression against Ukraine, and protracted conflicts. If I start with the cybersecurity, I must underline first of all the information communication technology have very much improved the life of all people. It have improved the possibilities to communicate, to exchange opinions. But, as always, there is a backside. And that's about the security. And the participating states in OSCE can use the full OSCE toolbox to prevent the insecurity in the cyber field. But what we also have seen, it's the hacking accounts. We have seen when it comes to election that there have been violence caused by cybersecurity. We could also see the threat for companies, the threat for states, and even OSCE itself have been hacked. We need to act. This is very important to keep the trust and security also when it comes to the IT technology. The second item in my report is terrorism. We have during the last years been witness to several terrible attacks, terrorist attacks on civil people. And I must say that this is the worst form of attacks on people, when innocent people who are gathering outside in the society are attacked by terrorists. We as elected parliamentarians have to act against this, to stop the terrorism. And this is about rebuild trust. It's about believing people, but it's also to stop the terrorism, to act, to end the wars, and to establish, as I said, acting against the terrorism, and we could do that with using the OSCE toolbox. When it comes to Turkey, I do also want to stress that there have been terrorist attacks in Turkey where civil people have been killed, innocent people. And as I understand, this is still a threat that's in Turkey. I do also want to mention that Turkey is the country in the world who hosts most refugees of all, more than 3 million. But it's also important that we here in OSCE mention that there are issues that are problematic in Turkey, a development that's not in support, in favor for democracy, and not in favor of the OSCE values. For example, the alarming high numbers of journalists and parliamentarians who are imprisoned. And also the need to respect the freedom of expression, fundamental rights, and human rights in the fight against terrorism. It can never be that people's right, the human rights, should be put behind for the fight against terrorism. My fourth item is women in peace building. Women are half of the population. Women are also very often have to be stepped back when it comes to conflicts. Their rights are undermined. And in OSCE, we support the UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which says that women's capacity should be used to prevent, to be a part in negotiation and to all parts of the conflict cycle. And here we can do a lot as parliamentarians to really encourage women to take part in this important job. And in Tbilisi, 2016, All OSCE participating states were encouraged to develop and implement gender-positive policies, programs, and service to increase the number of women and also to secure the situation for women and refugees, girls refugees especially. The fifth issue is the Russian aggression against Ukraine. I'm sorry to say this because I have mentioned the Russian aggressions all 3 years I have served as rapporteur. The Russians have, since 3 years, adopted Crimea, or annexation of Crimea. Also supported the conflict in Donbass and Luhansk region. There needs to be a stop of this. There needs to be a respect for the integrity of Ukraine, for the right to Ukraine to make decisions of its own territorium. And the Minsk Agreement, first the Minsk Agreement 1 and then the Minsk Agreement 2 from the 11th of February 2015. It gave the possibility, the framework for peace building. It hasn't been implemented full yet, and I really, really hope that it could be. And I must underline that the big country, the biggest part, have a huge responsibility to support peace and do everything they can for peace in Ukraine and to establish confidence building and respect Ukraine. The last point is the protracted conflicts. In the OSCE area, there are several examples on protracted conflicts. There is the one in Nagorno-Karabakh, and there is also the one in Georgia, in Abkhazia and South Ossetia. The OSCE toolbox gives opportunity for peace building and establish a situation that respects the countries and the territorium. It's important to work with the OSCE toolbox, and we as parliamentarians, we could do a lot to work to establish the situation. But I must also underline here that all parts have to contribute. All parts have to show respect for each other. Here, just as when it comes to the situation in Ukraine. And let me mention the situation in Georgia. In Abkhazia, there have been I first want to mention the unilateral decisions such as holding a presidential election in South Ossetia and changing the name of the region, as well as the opening of a Russian embassy in Abkhazia. It's undermined the peace process and the territory of Georgia. I think it's important that we mention this here in OSCE Parliamentarian Assembly, because we as parliamentarians, we have the possibility to debate, to find solutions, and to respect each other. When we are seeking respect, when we are seeking the support from our people who we respect, support from our people who elect us. It does include, of course, internal affairs, but it does also include international affairs. So we can protect our countries. And this means that we have to find international solutions. And that's what we can do here. We can use our toolbox from OSCE to build trust and cooperation for peace and prosperity in the OSCE region. And I look forward to the debate in our committee and the decision that we will take. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sederfeld.
Senator, the ambassador is waiting, so we can connect now.
If it is all right, we're going to proceed 8 minutes early to the report from our OSCE monitors. As I mentioned earlier, the unprecedented circumstance of the death of one of our monitors in the field has warranted that we inform ourselves more fully on the situation that our monitors have seen in Ukraine. We've decided on this exceptional basis to invite an outside speaker to address the committee. Ambassador Ertuğrul Apakan, Chief Monitor of the OSCE Special Monitoring Mission to Ukraine, has been serving in this capacity since April of 2014. The ambassador also served as the permanent representative of Turkey to the United Nations from 2009 to 2012, and as undersecretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from 2006 to 2009. After the ambassador's presentation, members who wish to comment on his presentation or on the challenges to the monitoring mission or on the situation in Ukraine are encouraged to do so as we consider texts referring to those issues. So, Mr. Ambassador, we see you clearly on the monitor. We thank you for agreeing virtually to brief us today on your mission's mandate and the consequences of the April 23rd fatality, as well as the way forward. So, Mr. Ambassador, you have our thanks and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for inviting me to speak about the situation on the ground and the activities of OSCE Special Monitoring Mission. I have just returned from Minsk, where we discussed at the meetings of the Trilateral Contact Group and Working Group on Security Issues, the implementation of Minsk agreements and the security situation, general security situation in Donbass. 2 weeks ago in Minsk, the Trilateral Contact Group and other participants reached a common understanding for a recommitment to the ceasefire of the harvest season, which commenced on the 24th June and expected to be lasted 31st August. Unfortunately, despite an initial decrease of violence, ceasefire violations have continued. The situation remains far from stable, with sporadic, geographically and chronologically dispersed escalations of fighting. The situation in some specific hotspots, by now perhaps familiar to many of you, remains tense and almost constant violent. These are Avdiivka, Yasnovata, Donetsk Airport in Donbass. The other one is the area east of Mariupol and the area between Svitlodarsk and Debaltseva. In addition to these, more recently, the SMM has reported an escalation in Luhansk region along the river in the area halfway between Severodonetsk and Luhansk, where the situation remained mostly stable for months before, as well as in the area of Popasna. SMM continues to report weapons in violation of withdrawal lines and numerous weapons missing from the storage site on both sides of the contact line. These weapons should have been withdrawn and kept withdrawn since a long time ago. In addition, the use of such weapons demonstrates that the withdrawal agreed by the signatories has not been completed. The process of disengagement of forces and hardware in line with the TCG Trilateral Contact Group framework decision is not progressing. Other regular items of discussion in the working group are cessation of fire, zones free of heavy weapons, withdrawal of heavy weapons, protection of civilian infrastructure, measures to enhance security and humanitarian situation. As you will have seen in our report, forces on both sides of the contact line continue their combat and displace civilians, firing large caliber weapons into and out of the populated areas, and they continue to cause considerable damage to critical infrastructure on which these and other civilians rely. This causes humanitarian hardship and potential for ecological disasters. Large number of civilians continued to queue at entry-exit checkpoints. As temperature rise, the SMM has noted a lack of adequate shade, water, and sanitary facilities for civilians. What is needed, urgently needed, is a renewed and credible commitment, not only in word, but also in action, to put the needs of civilians first. Over recent weeks, the mission observed damage caused by shelling in residential areas on several towns and villages on both sides of the contact line. This has regrettably resulted in a significantly higher number of civilian casualties. Since January 2017, the SMM has corroborated almost 300 civilian casualties, over 50 killed, and about 240 injured. In the same period of 2016, the SMM corroborated around 170 civilian casualties, over 30 killed, and over 130 injured. The number increased by over 40% in 2017 compared with the same period of 2016. SMM continues to monitor the humanitarian situation, which remains a matter of deep concern. Currently, SMM counts 650 monitors from 44 participating states. We work in 22 locations, including 10 close to the contact line. Security of SMM monitors remains under threat, particularly in areas outside the government control. These included cases of threats and harassment by armed individuals, as well as firing at or near SMM monitors and UAVs. I wish to emphasize that SMM is a civilian mission that war compelled to assume peacekeeping and peacemaking functions in a very volatile political and security environment. Our job is to monitor, report, verify, and provide early warning. At the same time, we are facilitating and contributing to the implementation of Minsk agreements. On 23rd April, one of our colleagues was tragically killed and 2 others were hospitalized as a result of an explosion near Prebish in Luhansk. I would like to thank all of you who offered kindness and support following this incident. I would also reiterate the readiness of so many talented men and women to come here to Ukraine to contribute to reducing tensions and fostering peace. Stability and security does them credit. The readiness of them and of our many Ukrainian mission members to continue to serve in such a demonstrably hostile environment is remarkable indeed, and something that none of us can take for granted. The presence of mines and UXOs continues to constitute a constant threat to the civilians and SMM. On 5 May, I sent a letter to the signatories of Minsk agreements, urging them to ensure that armed forces of Ukraine and armed formation in areas of Donetsk and Luhansk regions outside government control provide maps of all areas suspected or confirmed to be contaminated with mines and UXOs. I regret to inform you that we didn't receive a single map since then. In many areas, primarily in areas outside government control, the SMMs of freedom of movement has been restricted. Without full access, the SMM cannot fully implement its mandate. I have touched on some of the issues at the top of the SMM's agenda. In particular, I have summarized how the Minsk agreements continue to be violated in the vast majority of the cases without remedy or accountability. Let me assure you that SMM will contribute to implement its mandate with impartiality and to facilitate dialogue with the aim of promoting normalization and stabilization for the people of Ukraine and Ukraine. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We very much appreciate your taking the time out of your busy schedule to brief us on the situation on the ground. We appreciate your effort. Please convey to all the members of the Special Monitoring Mission our appreciation for their very important work, and thank them for getting the information out to the rest of the world, to the international community, about the facts as they are actually occurring on the ground. At this point, then, fellow delegates, we move to open debate on our rapporteur's draft resolution. The time limit for speeches is 3 minutes. Should a large number of members wish to take the floor, we might have to discuss that time limit, but at this point, 3 minutes will be the rule. After that, there will be time for consideration of amendments submitted to the draft resolution. 33 amendments have been tabled, and copies of those amendments have been made available. For your information, the correct version of the draft resolution is entitled AS 17 DRS 1. Let me go ahead and say this, and then we'll go to general debate. In discussing amendments, the chair will call the proposer of the amendment first, and then call any opponent of the amendment. I will then ask the sponsor of the draft resolution, Ms. Setterfeld, if she's not already spoken, for her opinion. Following that, I shall put the amendment to the vote. In the interest of time, if there is a very clear majority in a vote on an amendment, and that is often the case, I will announce the result only. When the vote looks to be close, or if members of the committee feel that it is close enough, I will announce the numbers voting for, voting against, and abstaining from the vote. One other matter that has come up in years past is that of oral amendments. And this is the rule that we have used now for the past 2 parliamentary assemblies. In the event that an oral amendment is proposed, it will be dealt with in accordance with paragraph 10 of Rule 22 of our Rules of Procedure. First, the chair will ask whether there is an objection to the oral amendment being considered. If there is any objection, the oral committee cannot be considered and it falls. If there is no objection, we'll proceed to consider the amendment in the same way as other amendments. That is, we'll hear from the proposer, we'll hear one speaker against the oral amendment, the opinion of the rapporteur, and then we will decide, as in the case of all other amendments, by majority vote, whether to adopt the oral amendment. And I don't think there'll be any problem in that regard. At this point, let me remind members that we are on debate at this point on the draft resolution. We have, Madam Clerk, how many people have signed at this point?
The meeting is no longer being recorded.
There are now 24 people who wish to speak on that. Of course, there'll be people who speak then during the amendment process. But that being the case, it is my honor and duty to recognize the first speaker, and that is Lord Bonis of the United Kingdom. Sir, you are recognized.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. President, and may I, on behalf of my delegation, endorse the thanks that have been expressed to the Parliament of Belarus for the arrangements for this meeting. May I also thank you and colleagues in the Secretariat and Member States for the condolences which they've sent to my delegation following the unfortunate incidents in London. We are grateful and it is appreciated. My thanks go to the rapporteur for her report, and later in the committee's proceedings, I will be requesting support for amendments, some of which have been proposed by Mr. Batelli, the Special Representative for the Western Balkans, and by me. These amendments concern the situation in the Western Balkans. They seek to expand the concern which is expressed in the rapporteur's excellent and comprehensive report. And that concern is regarding a deterioration in the situation in the region. I do believe that European governments are in danger of not giving enough attention to the situation in the countries in the region. And we have seen, as Mr. Batelli's report earlier in the year, we've seen rising ethnic tensions, we've seen rising nationalism, and we've seen problems with the democratic process in a number of countries. Mr. President, we've also seen, and this is a matter of considerable concern, foreign interference with the rights of individual nations to choose their destiny and alliances. And I take the opportunity of congratulating Montenegro on becoming the most recent member of NATO, despite pressure from certain sources to the contrary. Also in the region, the failure of Serbia to come to an accommodation with Kosovo and vice versa, and to create a lasting settlement, puts their own potential membership of the European Union in jeopardy. And I believe it is critical that governments are aware of this situation and ready to help and reserve the negative trends. As a member from the United Kingdom, I feel particularly strongly about this. The United Kingdom has always championed European Union enlargement for the countries of the region. And although we in the United Kingdom are now obliged, as a result of our own decisions, to pursue the decision to leave that European Union, that shouldn't alter our commitments, or indeed the commitments of other participating states' governments to the region, and the assistance which is necessary to help those member states achieve their European destiny. We saw the disastrous events which took place in that area following the breakup of the former Yugoslavia. I think, Mr. President, that should be sufficient to ensure that our member governments are aware of the situation and take action as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lord Bonis. The next speaker is Mr. Slutsky of the Russian Federation. Sir, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to speak Russian. Дорогие коллеги, я хочу поблагодарить прежде всего господина Атакана за подвижническую деятельность, которую миссия ведет на юго-востоке Украины. И хочу всех нас привлечь к докладам господина Атакана. На территории юго-востока Украины нет российских гибридных сил, как это утверждает 26-й пункт доклада госпожи Цедерфельд. Наоборот, в каждом докладе господина Атакана есть фотографические материалы, и есть в том числе снаряды, на которых написано детям Донбасса. Это чудовищная ситуация с тем, что Киев по-прежнему не выполняет Минские соглашения. К сожалению, искаженно представляется в том докладе, который сегодня мы услышали. Мы должны базировать свои оценки, мы должны базировать свои доклады и наши дискуссии в парламентской ассамблее, имея высокую ответственность за судьбу людей, за их жизни в этом очень непростом регионе. В связи с этим, конечно, мы не можем поддержать данный доклад. Мы представим поправки, но вместе с тем мы должны перестать вводить нашу организацию и наши страны в заблуждение относительно присутствия российских гибридных сил на юго-востоке Украины. Сегодня Россия подвергается санкциям в Европейском Совете за то, что якобы она не выполняет Минские соглашения, но она не является их стороной. Стороной соглашения являются Киев и регионы Юго-Востока. Россия является инициатором и активным участником Минского процесса и будет впредь способствовать нормализации ситуации в этом важнейшем регионе на пространстве нашей организации. Я прошу обратить внимание, дорогие коллеги, также на пункты 27 и 29, представленные нам госпожой Цедерфельд. Там говорится о агрессии, об агрессивной практике, об аннексии. Нам следует оставить эти термины и обратиться к реалиям, которые сегодня имеют место в Крыму и Севастополе. Крым и Севастополь вернулись в Россию на основании права на самоопределение, закрепленного в уставе Организации Объединенных Наций. А что касается аннексии, то де-факто аннексия была в 1991 году, когда, вопреки позиции подавляющего большинства жителей Крымского полуострова, Крым и Севастополь оказались в составе украинского государства. Мы должны поехать туда, и жители Крыма и Севастополя ждут представителей парламентской ассамблеи с тем, чтобы представить себе реалии, которые там происходят. Я хотел бы еще и еще раз попросить нашу ассамблею быть реалистами, и мы должны все вместе прийти к консенсусу, исходя из тех реалий, которые имеют место быть на юго-востоке Украины, в Крыму, в Севастополе. Дорогие коллеги, должен сказать, что Российская Федерация приветствует то, что наша организация действительно в последнее время играет серьезную роль в безопасности и сотрудничестве в Европе. Большое спасибо, и мы готовы к продолжению сотрудничества.
Thank you, sir. The chair now recognizes Mr. Gerasimov of Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, unfortunately, again, we see how the members of Russian delegation, and in particular Mr. Slutsky, openly lied here in this committee. Just a few comments. In 1991, the population in Crimea, more than 60% voted for being in independent Ukraine. Just check the figures. Next point. When we are speaking about SMM reports, SMM report not only registered presence of Russians in the occupied territory, but also they mentioning the presence of exclusive Russian weaponry in Donbass. Please read, but not lie. And about SMM, I want to say a real thank for the SMM for its activities, because they are real heroes. Implementation of the mandate requires safety and freedom of movement of the monitors. And we condemn in the strongest terms the armed attack of Russian hybrid fighters on the SMM monitors, which was done on the 20th of June. 20th of June, in the occupied Yasinovata. The use of an automatic assault rifle in the attack by firing in the air and the SMM patrol vehicle, putting at gunpoint the monitors in an attempt to break the side window of the patrol vehicle, was an unprecedented level of threat to unarmed civilian monitors. This attack was an appalling manifestation of the climate of impunity cultivated by Russia and its hybrid forces in the occupied areas of Donbass. in relation to attacks, threats, and intimidations directed at SMM monitors in the recent months. This outrageous attack was preceded only a few days earlier by an intimidating incident on the 8th of June near occupied Alexandrovsky, when the SMM patrol was encircled by 6 vans and 1 bus, none of which had license plates, with the armed men in balaclavas and hoods. And on the 13th June, when Russia-backed militants twice per day pulled a spike trip chain in front of the SMM vehicles. We emphasize Russia's responsibility for stopping threats and intimidation, bringing the responsible to account, and providing for safety and security of the SMM in the areas of Donbass, which are under Russia's effective control. These are commitments stipulated by the SMM mandate and the Minsk agreement, signed but not implemented by Russia. The tragic death of a SMM member, which happened in April, must not be repeated. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Ms. Michelson of Norway.
Thank you, Chair. Dear colleagues, the terrorism threat from Daesh and other organizations has over the last few years reached a new level of severity. The number of terrorism attacks on European soil has risen. Too many of our own youth are radicalized. I will in my intervention focused on digital means and our cyber capabilities, as highlighted in Cederfeldt's report, paragraph 1 and 24. But let me underline that these are not the times to compromise on our democratic principles. On the other side, these are times when we need to stand together and stand firm on our common values. I warn against those who use external terrorist threats to undermine our basic values, those who try to limit our freedom of expression, those who crack down on our free press, and those who try to limit our political plurality. We must meet these threats without compromising on our own values. Dear colleagues, the rapid advancement of digital platforms and social media are great tools for us as parliamentarians to engage the public in open debate. However, social media are often used for the exact opposite purpose, to radicalize youth in closed forums. Cyber capabilities are used by both organizations and states to influence other states. Digital tools are used not only to gather intelligence, but increasingly also for espionage, sabotage, and to influence public opinion through disinformation, propaganda, and fake news. Spreading fake news can have serious consequences. We have seen examples of fake news inspiring terrorist groups and lone terrorists to carry out heinous attacks. Their reasoning is not only beyond our understanding, but backed up by state and non-state actors that manipulate the reality. One could ask, who is to blame for this terrorism? We have seen examples of both states and non-state actors that manipulate social media and hacking individuals by infiltrating their social media profiles or even close down profiles of critical voices. There is also a dangerous tendency of some states' actors to use fake news in order to provoke another country to react, and reaction that can later be used against the country. In this manner, fake news is used to damage the relationship between states and provoke critical reaction from another. Some states' ability and willingness to use cyber capabilities to further their own political agenda abroad are rapidly increasing. My own country, Norway, experiences a growing number of cyber operations targeted as infiltrating data systems of the authorities and business. Cyber capabilities can also be used to attack infrastructure and critical systems in our societies. To summarize, Chair, I believe our role as parliamentarians in countering terrorism, first and foremost, is to protect and to promote human rights and fundamental freedoms. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes Mr. Kafkalias of Cyprus.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Multiple threats across the OSCE region are the cause and effect of an increasingly volatile security environment where the rule of power and narrow expediencies severely challenge the OSCE founding principles, mutual trust, and genuine cooperation. Homegrown terrorist attacks point at serious shortcomings in states' security policies, but also at deficient socioeconomic measures resulting in exacerbated poverty, inequality, discrimination, and exclusion. Mostly, they point at the lack of political will to end conflicts in the Middle East and Africa, and the ordeal of desperate refugees being an easy prey for smugglers in their pursuit of a better life in Europe. The current refugee crisis, overburdening frontline countries, particularly Greece and Italy, stresses how unity and solidarity have lamentably failed for the sake of submissive political agendas in the light of growing populism and protectionism. Dear colleagues, negotiations now taking place in Switzerland under the aegis of the UN Secretary General are at a crucial point with the aim of achieving a just and viable settlement of the Cyprus problem in accordance with international law and pertinent UN resolutions. Particular focus is placed on the core aspect of security and guarantees where Turkey can play a catalytic role by matching words with deeds towards a reunified Cyprus free from occupation troops and anachronistic guarantees, a country where Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots can live in peace and security with their human rights and fundamental freedoms fully guaranteed. Moreover, there have been repeated assurances on the Greek Cypriot side that, upon the settlement of the Cyprus problem, the exploitation of the country's natural resources will benefit Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots alike. Therefore, threats and hostile acts by Turkey against the exercise by the Republic of Cyprus of its sovereign energy rights with its exclusive economic zone in accordance with international law undermine negotiations and increase tension in the region. The settlement of the protracted Cyprus problem will be a good example of how peace is possible and of how energy can become a catalyst for peace, cooperation, and prosperity in the turbulent Eastern Mediterranean region. While the urgent need for greater humanitarian aid for Syria, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, and so forth is overwhelmingly recognized, as is the need for resilience building and rehabilitation, light at the end of the tunnel seems too far away, unless peace and reconciliation prevail, unless international law and ethics override geopolitical games and the vicious circle of the control arms export race, fitting wars through representatives. The OSCE has much food for thought, depending on how relevant participating states wish this organization, its bodies, field missions, and mechanisms to be. Enhancing dialogue, cooperation, and mutual trust in accordance with international law, international humanitarian law, and human rights law seems to be the only possible way ahead. The role of the OSCE Parliament Assembly can and must be more substantial in this respect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Paloniemi of Finland. Ma'am, you are recognized.
Mr. Chairman, for many years now, the Parliamentary Assembly has debated the deterioration of the security environment and alarming trends in Europe. Fundamental principles of the OSCE, as well as individual freedoms and rights, have been brutally violated, both in areas of conflicts and in individual participating states. New conflicts have emerged, and solutions are not in sight to the protracted conflicts in the OSCE area. Human suffering and frustration have grown, and new tensions have emerged. Security is composed of several elements: the functioning of democratic institutions, the respect of the basic principles of rule of law, and not least the respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms. I would like to underline that dialogue is one of the keys to enhancing mutual trust. It is good to recall that dialogue is not only talking and listening. Dialogue should also be an attempt to understand different viewpoints. As parliamentarians, we, the members of the OSCE Assembly, are well aware of the fact that power and positions of trust are never permanent, or at least should not be permanent. Politicians who are in power today may be in opposition tomorrow. The change of power is an essential part of democracy. Therefore, it's important also to listen to the voice of the opposition and to give the opportunity for the opposition to present its opposing views in a constructive context. This is an important part of the political dialogue at national level. It is obvious that we need to find new tools to solving conflicts and crises. Engaging all parties concerned in dialogue and discussions is obviously particularly important in peace mediation. It is obvious that a solution to a conflict or crisis can be sustainable and durable only when it respects of individual freedoms, human rights, and OSCE principles. But in addition to that, maybe we also need to engage more partners in the dialogue, and namely those persons and groups who are directly concerned and affected by disputes and armed conflicts. I'm thinking of representatives of local and regional authorities, as well as non-governmental organizations, which represent the persons directly and most concretely affected by the crisis. When looking at the root causes of many conflicts today, we have seen that underlying reasons, or at least part of the reasons which have been evoked, are into history, in the near past of sometimes even in the not so near past, that is historical events. However, history should not be abused, and it should not be used to increase tension and distrust between nations or inside nations. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Mr. Guliev, the former vice chair of this committee. Mr. Guliev, you are recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, dear ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank Madam Rapporteur, Margareta Cederfeld, for the work done to prepare such a comprehensive report and draft resolution. The report provides a real picture of current state of security and stability in the OSCE area and covers all important elements. All the elements reflected in the report deserves focused attention of the committee. Unfortunately, due to the latest developments, and in the interest of time, I am obliged to skip my comments on other elements and focus on the issue of protracted conflicts, namely Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. As indicated in the report, progress towards the settlement of the conflict is lacking as Armenia escapes from meaningful substantive negotiations, deliberately increase tension on the ground to derail the peace process. Therefore, I commend the view of Ms. Cederfeld that the return to negotiation table is needed to avoid further military confrontation and escalation. We should explore the potential of parliamentarians to persuade parties to engage in substantive negotiations without further delay. Violations of ceasefire, deliberate targeting of civilians, especially the recent killing of 2-year-old Azerbaijani girl, Zahra Guliyeva, by Armenian occupying forces, cannot be tolerated. We as parliamentarians must heavily condemn and demand punishment of those baby killers in order not to allow them to be encouraged and promoted and also continue their crimes in the future. For the sake of clarity, when we talk about the line of contact, we mean trenches and other military installments deep inside the internationally recognized territories of Azerbaijan around its Nagorno-Karabakh region. It runs in close proximity to civilian Azerbaijani settlements. Unlike the other side of the line, civilians reside in the settlements near the line of contact that is under control of Azerbaijani forces. It is mainly the Azerbaijani civilians that suffer from attacks, too often with heavy artillery. Therefore, unilateral decision-making and violence hinder diplomatic negotiations and dialogue initiatives, and I agree with distinguished rapporteur in this sense. Finally, I'd like to touch upon the activities of Minsk group. Again, I cannot but agree with distinguished rapporteur that the OSCE's respective negotiation format should utilize the full potential of conflict resolution mechanisms to achieve a lasting settlement. I repeat my call for increased cooperation and coordination between the co-chairs of Minsk Group and the Assembly and redouble its efforts. Thank you for your attention, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. And the chair now recognizes Ms. Ostrakova of Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We fully support key points of the report presented by Ms. Sederfeld and really appreciate her work and her personal contribution to this issue. Especially, we support her conclusions in sphere of cyber security and Russian aggression against Ukraine, which started in 2014 with the military invasion of the Russian troops into Ukraine's territory in Crimea and further invasion into the territory of Donbas region. The ceasefire regime in Donbas was not reached because Russia's side doesn't want it. The Russian side doesn't let the special monitoring mission to effectively monitor the Ukrainian-Russian state border. The prisoners of war are illegally detained in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. We are talking now about 132 prisoners of war, and now Russia blocks the process of their release. Almost every day increases the quantity of killed and wounded Ukrainian citizens. The latest United Nations figures register over 10,000 killed and over 20,000 wounded Ukrainians. Even though Russia denies her aggression against Ukraine and denies her presence, denies the presence of Russian regular military forces in Ukraine, several days ago, Viktor Ageyev, Russian military servant, was captured by Ukrainian army in Donbas with Russian documents and with Russian weapon. And he witnessed that he was sent to Ukraine as military servant to fight against Ukrainian citizens. This is the evidence of Russian aggression. And this is fully in line with the conclusions of a report presented by Ms. Sederfeld. Therefore, dear colleagues, I have a request to you. Please do not call situation in Ukraine a conflict, because conflict is something internal, and we face the invasion of the aggressor state, Russia Federation, into the territory of Ukraine. Using reality-based approach, the proper definition is for situation in Ukraine is Russian war against Ukraine. Also, I would like to draw your attention to the cybersecurity issue, as cyber attacks have become a common and growing trend globally since the advancement of information and communication technologies. Many states have developed cyber capabilities for defensive and offensive purposes. For example, US intelligence community has concluded with high confidence that Russian forces interfered in 2016 in the US presidential elections. At the end of June this year, the servers of Ukrainian state authorities and commercial enterprises had been attacked and even ruined by computer virus Petya. Ukrainian competent authorities traced the origin of this cyber attack from Russian Federation. Therefore, we fully agree with the conclusions of the report that disruptive tactics have been of the rise in recent months. Hacking emails or servers, spreading disinformation in social media with the goal to influence on election and even distortion of election results. So it is not only about IT security, but about national security of the participating states. Thus, the challenges that we face in cyberspace call for joint confidence-building measures and also application of norms of international law in the cyberspace where attacks and aggression can occur. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair now recognizes Mr. Allison of Canada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I want to also thank Ms. Sederfeld for her excellent report on the many challenges confronting the OSCE, including attacks launched through cyberspace. As the report states, the risks of cyber attacks are real, and consultations and dialogue concerning cyber incidents must take place. Canadians are also concerned about the threats to cybersecurity. Our nation, 150 years young, was built on connectivity. Railroads were Canada's first sustaining network. Now it's the digitalized connections of cyberspace. When our communication networks are compromised, misused, or attacked, our lives are disrupted and our livelihoods put at risk. The debilitating cyber attacks targeting Ukraine, the weaponization of social media, and the attempts to interfere with democratic processes have made it clear that cyberspace has become a battleground. As attacks become more sophisticated, more damaging, and more common, there are growing concerns that some states are honing their digital arsenals for use against OSCE participating states. These behaviors are intended to hint that the worst is yet to come. These behaviors are designed to destroy confidence among us. It is for this reason that Canada today places a high priority on countering cyber threats. We believe confidence-building measures, or CBMs, such as increased information sharing and agreed upon rules of behavior, can help states navigate the complexities of the cyber domain. Events in cyberspace are ambiguous by nature, but simply put, there is too much room for speculation and misunderstanding. Given heightened tensions in the OSCE region, efforts to address the challenges of cybersecurity should focus on predictability and transparency. For these reasons, it was encouraging that the Ministerial Council adopted a decision in December 2016 focusing on reducing the risks of conflict stemming from the use of information and communication technologies. While this decision focuses on the cooperation between participating states, it is important to remember that confidence building starts at home. To this end, Canada has undertaken measures to enhance its cybersecurity and to build our resiliency to cyber attacks. We have increased information sharing among key stakeholders, including the intelligence, police, and private sector operators of critical infrastructure. We are helping Canadians better understand and protect themselves from cyber threats. We are working with close allies to leverage our collective cybersecurity capabilities. Finally, Canada has for many years engaged other nations in key international forums, including the OSCE on confidence-building measures. Our goal has been to situate cyber within the existing framework of the international law and to ensure there are consequences for failure to uphold these laws. To close, I would once again like to thank the rapporteur for highlighting the role the OSCE can play in enhancing cybersecurity. I believe this issue is highly salient to our discussions of this annual session, and it will continue to be years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. The chair now recognizes Ms. Berko of Israel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues. At the outset, I would like to convey our deepest condolences to the latest victims of terror, including those who were murdered during the horrible terror incident in Manchester, where young people were killed when exercising their right to enjoy themselves at a pop concert. It reminds us of a terror incident which took place in Tel Aviv in a similar manner in 2001. Hamas, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, they all were nourished from the same petri dish of the Muslim Brotherhood. Some of them are currently trying to destroy Sunni countries. Some of them are mostly targeting Western society and values. And all of them are killing mostly Muslims and also Christians, Jews, and other faiths. Iran's state-sponsored terrorism, including its proxy Hezbollah, is involving in international terror in Yemen, Syria, Iraq, and Latin America, and we should not be surprised if sleeper cells will be found in Europe, not just of Sunni terror, but also of Shia. All of this is currently happening when Iran is still without nuclear weapon. What will happen when the moratorium ends? Iran is not part of the solution, but it is part of the problem. Dating back 1,400 years, the rift between Sunni and Shia. Another population that is in a dire condition in the Middle East are the Christians. Christians are being bombed, raped, bullied, and driven out of Syria, Iraq, and also Bethlehem. It is time to remember who brought to the world this kind of terror: the Palestinian terror organizations, the Palestinian unwillingness to accept the sheer existence of the state of Israel in the Middle East, and the unnatural state hereditary refugee status are real hurdle in finding solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It evokes illusion that the state of Israel may disappear. For the two-state, for the two-people solution to become a reality, one needs realistic approach and understanding. Mr. Chairman, I wish to add by telling you and my esteemed colleagues that my family, my parents fled from Baghdad, a city where Jews lived for over than 2,000 years, and had to flee, leaving all their citizenships, belongings, hopes, and memories behind. 800,000 Jews, like my family, fled Middle Eastern countries to come to Israel and to rebuild their homeland. Their integration and formation of the diverse society gives us hope. It is time to realize that Israel, a modern democratic small country the size of Slovenia, is the canary in the mine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Mr. Shufrich of Ukraine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Я очень внимательно слушал докладчика и обратил внимание, что в пункте, который касается выполнения Минских соглашений, призывается все стороны подписать, хотя акцент сделан на Российскую Федерацию. Вы знаете, буквально в понедельник в семье близких мне людей похоронили украинского военнослужащего, который в 2014 году был ранен под Иловайском. В 2014 году в Ужгороде в семье близких мне людей похоронили молодого человека, который был военнослужащим украинских вооруженных сил. 3 семьи моих друзей в Донецке похоронили своих близких в Донецке. Я сегодня призываю всех нас говорить открыто, честно, говорить о том, что украинская власть, подчеркиваю, не Украина, не украинский народ, а украинская власть сегодня ответственна не меньше, чем Янукович в том, что сегодня происходит в Украине. Ведь тот способ, который они пришли к власти, это очень сомнительный способ. И все им доверились, и вместо того, чтобы сохранить единство в стране, они привели к кризису, конфликту и в итоге гражданской войне. Сегодня по 2 стороны линии сопротивления украинцы в основном. Если там российские добровольцы, да, есть, Россия это не скрывает. Россия не скрывает своего влияния на эту ситуацию. И благодаря ее влиянию в начале сентября 2014 года были остановлены наступательные действия на Мариуполь. Сегодня, выступая на пленарном заседании, я сказал, что, к сожалению, я это говорил через 10 дней после подписания Минских соглашений в городе Вене, я говорил о том, что украинская власть не в состоянии реализовать Минские соглашения, потому что им мир не нужен. И назвал 3 причины. Ответственность за единоличное решение решить этот кризис в военный способ 30 июня 2014 года. Использование этих лозунгов для того, чтобы объяснить людям, почему они стали в 6 раз беднее. И, конечно же, эта власть никогда не допустит, чтобы в электоральное пространство вернулись те граждане, которые никогда за нее не проголосуют. Это 3 миллиона человек, это 15% электорального поля Украины. И сегодня я много слышу о российской агрессии. У меня возникает вопрос. Скажите мне, пожалуйста, вы допускаете ситуацию, чтобы украинские танки и бронетехника заправлялась топливом агрессора? А чтобы вы знали, сегодня украинская бронетехника заправляется российским дизтопливом. Вы можете себе представить, я извиняюсь за эту жестокую параллель, чтобы жертвы концлагерей платили за газ, которым их травят? Вы можете себе представить ситуацию, что лидер государства, который призывает своих подчиненных, сам об этом не говорит, называть соседей страной-агрессором, его предприятия заплатили налогов, которыми можно обеспечить ежегодным содержанием около 100 тысяч российских солдат. И при этом с российской территории были переведены порядка 70-80 миллионов долларов США дивидендов для компаний, которые сегодня принадлежат верховному главнокомандующему президенту Украины. Я сегодня хотел бы, чтобы на этих вопросах не спекулировали, чтобы сегодня мы нашли реальную дорогу к миру, чтобы Минск, который дарит украинскому народу, подчеркивание украинской власти, надежду на мир, был реализован, и чтобы мы все вместе давили на украинскую власть. Сегодня, когда мы встретились 3 года назад здесь, коалиция правительства составлялась из 5 фракций, сегодня из 2. Потому что 3 фракции уже ушли, спасая свои рейтинги, понимая, что эта власть обречена. Но я не хочу, чтобы вместе с этой властью была обречена Украина. Я не боюсь преследований. Сегодня власть преследует оппозицию, преследует бывшего кандидата в президенты Добкина, лидера оппозиции Вилкула. О себе я уже не говорю, я уже привык. Мы сегодня за то, чтобы Украина была единой, независимо от того, на каком языке она говорит. И я надеюсь, что мы здесь проявим мудрость и не позволим себя обмануть. Извините за эмоции, спасибо за внимание.
Thank you. Thank you. The chair now recognizes Mr. Bosko of Kazakhstan.
Уважаемые коллеги, в настоящее время регион ОБСЕ продолжает сталкиваться с новыми вызовами и угрозами, которые имеют мультипликативный эффект и так или иначе затрагивают все три изменения ОБСЕ. И сегодня, несмотря на усилия стран-членов, ситуация в области безопасности продолжает оставаться напряженной. Причиной этому ряд факторов: международный терроризм, насильственный экстремизм, рост ксенофобии, миграционный кризис, помноженные на отсутствие доверия и конструктивного диалога между государствами-членами, не находят настоящего решения. Казахстан принимает посреднические случаи по регулированию украинского и сирийского кризиса, многим здесь известно. Как известно, усилия президента Казахстана Нурсултана Назарбаева по сближению российской и украинской сторон стали одной из важнейших составляющих Минских соглашений. Минские соглашения конкретны, с пошаговыми мерами, и их реализация должна привести к миру. Хочу обратить ваше внимание, что президент Казахстана 4 июня в интервью средствам массовой информации еще раз призвал к скорейшему решению этого вопроса на базе минских договоренностей и проведения переговоров всех участвующих сторон. В рамках сирийского кризиса запущен Астанинский процесс, который является дополнением к Женевским переговорам. В результате 4 раундов переговоров подписан меморандум о взаимодействии по зонам деэскалации. В эти дни, 4-5 июня, в Астане в рамках 5-го раунда переговоров стороны обсудили детали и практическую сторону реализацию положений меморандума, согласование границ и карт зон деэскалации, документов, регламентирующих деятельность сил контроля деэскалации, положение о координационном центре. Надеемся, что реализация договоренностей будет результативным и конфликт в Сирии из военной фазы перейдет в дипломатическую. Уважаемые коллеги, сегодня террористические акты стали обыденным явлением практически в любой точке мира. При этом присутствие Даиш и других террористических организаций в Афганистане негативно отражается на безопасности региона Центральной Азии. Как вам известно, с 1 января текущего года Казахстан приступил к работе в Совете Безопасности ООН в качестве его непостоянного члена на 17-18 годы. Мы намерены внести вклад в укрепление стабильности и безопасности на евразийском пространстве, уделяя особое внимание международного сообщества на вызовы безопасности и развития Центральной Азии и Афганистана. В данном контексте хотел бы напомнить об инициативах президента Казахстана о создании глобальной антитеррористической сети под эгидой ООН, создание единого списка террористических организаций. Мы призываем все страны-участницы ОБСЕ поддержать эти инициативы. Чем раньше мы начнем эту работу, тем раньше мы можем прийти к конкретным решениям. Мы поддерживаем и поддерживали инициативу Российской Федерации по созданию в Парламентской ассамблее ОСCE ОБСЕ, специального комитета по терроризму, и в настоящее время этот вопрос решен. И хотел бы сказать, что надо отметить настойчивость в решении этого вопроса. Это важный состоявшийся шаг. А острый гуманитарный кризис, связанный с неконтролируемым наплывом беженцев в Европу, сопровождается радикализацией умонастроений и повышением опасности для многих стран в связи с возвращением на родину террористов-боевиков из горячих точек, о чем вчера говорил и министр иностранных дел Австрии. С сожалением отмечаем рост процессов радикализации молодежи. Также важным направлением сотрудничества с ОБСЕ для Казахстана является вопрос укрепления безопасности границ, борьбе с нелегальной миграцией, незаконного оборота оружия и торговлей, и мы всегда будем поддерживать процессы, которые снижают опасность от этих явлений. ОБСЕ и ее парламентские ассамблеи могут играть более значимую роль в разрешении кризисных ситуаций. Конфликты всех видов и уровней, международные, локальные, межрегиональные и внутрирелигиозные, не только угрожают современной безопасности, но и подрывают основы мировой экономики с глубоким последствием для будущего человечества. Нам необходимо объединить усилия, вовлечь все заинтересованные стороны по всей повестке дня ОБСЕ. Например, нам нужно иметь более частые контакты ОБСЕ с Европейской комиссией, ОДКБ, НАТО, СВМДА, ШОС и также Организацией исламского сотрудничества. Только при условии тесного взаимодействия мы сможем эффективно реагировать на стоящие перед нами вызовы и угрозы. Благодарю за внимание.
Thank you. And the chair now recognizes Ms. Nagadalian of Armenia.
I would like to thank Ms. Margareta Sederfeld for her report and reflect on some aspects related to protracted conflicts. We see that protracted conflicts are not generalized and brought on one by one in their own context. We welcome this approach. Principles upon which conflict resolution are based may significantly vary. That's why assessing every conflict within its own agreed format and mechanism is essential in any meaningful dialogue. Second, the report argues on greater involvement of the chairman in office of the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly by agreed format and personal representative in stabilizing efforts and moving towards negotiated agreement in the framework of Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. In order to have greater involvement of the Parliamentary Assembly in discussing Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, this body should become a place of dialogue rather than confrontation. Yesterday, conduct of Azerbaijani delegation of the Standing Committee shows that there is a long way to go to transform blame game into cooperation. The Parliamentary Assembly is a part of the OSCE, and hence it should speak in one voice with others, at least in one issue, which is OSCE greater presence in the conflict area. As you are aware, last year in Vienna and St. Petersburg summit, through mediation of the OSCE Minsk group co-chairs and their countries, the parties agreed to reinforce OSCE presence on the ground by increasing monitoring capacity of the personal representative to the chairman in office and establishing an OSCE investigative mechanism into ceasefire violations. Unfortunately, Azerbaijan so far refused to implement decisions of these summits. Instead of making calls to OSCE Minsk group to redouble their efforts, parties to the conflict should be called to implement agreements reached within the agreed format and by efforts of the co-chairs. This would ensure both strong OSCE presence in the conflict area and de-escalation. Azerbaijan does not hide its intentions to keep the situation on the line of contact tense and use the force. The last statements of OSCE Minsk group co-chairs identified the part of the conflict, namely Azerbaijan, who initiated ceasefire violations. Today, Azerbaijani MP refers that the line of contact from Nagorno-Karabakh is not populated. that is not true. Let me recall the atrocities committed by Azerbaijani armed forces in April 2016 in Talish village in the line of contact. The brutal killing and the mutilation of 3 elderly persons of Khalafian family. One of them was 92 years old, happened in the village, which was completely destroyed. Martuni town has been also targeted by Azerbaijan, claiming life of 20 years old schoolboy Vagina Grigoryan. We did not distribute graphic pictures of these tortured and mutilated bodies from ethical points of views. Finally, I would like to refer to the closure of the OSCE office in Yerevan caused by a refusal of Azerbaijan to join consensus on the decision of the extension of the mandate. After closure of the OSCE office in Baku, this is the second time that OSCE capacities are undermined. Armenia welcomes greater OSCE presence in the entire region, being Yerevan, Stepanakert, or Baku. Thank you.
Thank you. And the chair now recognizes Mr. Berthold of Canada.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président. Tout d'abord, permettez-moi de remercier Mme Sederfeld pour son excellent rapport et permettez-moi également de remercier l'OSCE-PA pour l'opportunité que nous avons aujourd'hui et durant cette session d'entendre les commentaires des différents pays. Ça nous permet, quand on est de retour chez nous, d'en connaître vraiment davantage sur les situations d'une manière plus concrète, puisqu'on entend les commentaires de chacune des personnes. Je tiens à souligner que je devrais me concentrer sur le terrorisme, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de choses dans le rapport. Les attentats de 2014 et de 2017 au Canada nous rappellent que le Canada n'est pas à l'abri de la menace terroriste. Ces terribles incidents et les actes innommables récents en Grande-Bretagne et ailleurs dans le monde nous montrent que la menace est mondiale et nous devons cesser d'être naïfs et irresponsables. Ces agressions terroristes sont en fait des attaques contre les valeurs fondamentales de notre société et des principes énoncés dans l'acte final d'Helsinki. Le Parlement du Canada a récemment adopté la loi antiterroriste de 2015 pour mieux répondre à la menace changeante du terrorisme. Ainsi, pour la première fois au Canada, la promotion d'actes terroristes en général constitue une infraction criminelle. La loi prévoit aussi des infractions pour quiconque tente de quitter le Canada pour participer à une activité d'un groupe terroriste. Ces dispositions visent à mieux réagir à la menace que pose la radicalisation, le recrutement et les combattants étrangers qui, comme le signale la rapporteure dans son rapport, représentent des risques graves à la sécurité globale des États participants à l'OSCE. Comme parlementaires, il est de notre devoir de voir à ce que les mesures antiterroristes protègent efficacement nos citoyens, le tout conformément au principe de la primauté du droit, comme le prévoient les engagements de l'OSCE et les conventions des Nations unies. Un débat vigoureux et éclairé est l'un des meilleurs outils dont nous disposons pour accomplir ce rôle important. Voici un exemple de ce que les parlementaires peuvent accomplir. Après plus d'une décennie de débats sur la surveillance parlementaire des activités de sécurité nationale, l'établissement d'un comité parlementaire sur la sécurité nationale a été mis en branle au Canada le mois dernier. Mais attention, les parlementaires doivent demeurer vigilants et s'assurer que ces comités aient accès à toutes les informations nécessaires et que le contrôle de ces comités demeure entièrement parlementaire. Nous, comme parlementaires, devons nous assurer du respect de l'équilibre entre sécurité et liberté. Les gouvernements doivent rendre des comptes aux parlementaires, même sur les questions de sécurité. Comme on peut le lire dans le rapport de la rapporteure, le règlement des conflits et la lutte contre la radicalisation revêtent une importance majeure dans la lutte antiterroriste. Le Canada prépare actuellement une stratégie nationale de lutte contre la radicalisation menant à la violence. Comme l'a fait remarquer Mme Sederfeld dans son rapport, la radicalisation des jeunes est particulièrement inquiétante. C'est pourquoi le Bureau de sensibilisation des collectivités cherche des moyens pour donner les outils nécessaires aux jeunes et aux femmes pour mieux cerner ce problème important et y répondre efficacement. Avant de conclure, j'aimerais insister sur le fait que la coopération internationale doit continuer d'être une priorité pour que nous puissions mieux lutter contre le terrorisme sous toutes ses formes. Merci.
Thank you. And now I recognize Mr. Bellens of Belgium.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dear colleagues, in recent years we have witnessed a certain hardening of stances and viewpoints throughout the OSCE sphere, not only in the long-standing conflicts in the Caucasus and Eastern Europe. Even today we hear in the argumentation of all parties of these conflicts. We see this in newer conflicts, we see this in the West, we see this on the borders of the OSCE sphere. Colleagues, the only net result of harsh words and populist rhetoric is a further deepening of divides and the growth of mistrust. If this evaluation continues, an escalation of current conflicts and the emergence of entirely new ones is possible. We see this mistrust already in the hindering of OSCE missions, in the blockades against renewals of funding, and the overall dissemination of the heavy weaponry throughout our continents, as noted by the resolution. Therefore, I'm glad our committee has put forward the resolution on enhancing mutual trust and cooperation for peace and prosperity in the OSCE region. Countering the evolutions I described earlier is just one of its main concerns. I'm glad it calls on all member states not to not take the principles and ideals of this assembly for granted and live by its spirit. Mind you, I want to stress we all should feel addressed by this text, not only the states named explicitly. Multilateralism is by its very nature a joint effort, but for that to succeed, one needs the right means to the right end. Therefore, I too think this organization must reflect on its current toolbox and available methods. I will clarify my stance on this when proposing my amendments. For now, I can really say I support this resolution wholeheartedly. It is what the OSCE sphere needs, a clear and unambiguous statement on the current situation and possible solution to it. It puts the organization and its member states onto a path of renewed dialogue, something we now dearly need. The time of Cold War polarity is long gone. The short-lived era of unipolarity is over. Now we live in a multipolar world. We could say a new world. If it will be a brave, I do not know. This we control ourselves. To me, bravery means the strength to overcome differences. It means the will to step into a dialogue without knowing the outcomes beforehand. It means the willingness to accept that not all of those outcomes serve your own agenda the best way imaginable. Why? Because of one simple fact. We may live in a multipolar world, but it is still one world. The best way to serve everyone's needs, therefore, is unrelenting dialogue. In short, multilateralism. I keep on believing the OSCE is one of the assemblies that serves this goal best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I recognize the last speaker of the day, Mr. Zavarov of the Russian Federation.
Спасибо, уважаемые коллеги. В отличие от некоторых конфронтационных выступлений, которые звучали сегодня в этом зале, я хочу напомнить, что платформа ОБСЕ может и должна использоваться как основа сближения позиций и поиска путей выхода из кризиса европейской безопасности. Убежден, что консолидация потенциалов государств, участников ОБСЕ, принесет существенные плоды. У нас общие вызовы, поэтому в числе безусловных приоритетов ОБСЕ должны оставаться борьба с терроризмом, незаконным оборотом наркотиков и киберугрозами. В этой связи высоко оцениваем итоги конференции «Политика безопасности ОБСЕ. Взгляд со стороны женщин», прошедшей 23 марта этого года в Вене, и парламентской конференции, организованной совместными усилиями Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ и Межпарламентской ассамблеи СНГ в Санкт-Петербурге 28 марта этого же года. Принятые в ходе ее работы совместные выводы сопредседателей, которыми были Кристин Мутанин и госпожа Матвиенко, закрепили магистральные подходы в сфере антитеррора. Развивая возможности по предотвращению, пресечению и ликвидации последствий террористической деятельности, мы должны препятствовать возникновению условий, способствующих распространению терроризма. Касаясь необходимости ведения открытого парламентского диалога, отмечу, что вопросы противодействия терроризму находятся в фокусе внимания другой крупной международной парламентской организации «Межпарламентский союз». 137-я сессия Ассамблеи Межпарламентского союза пройдет в Санкт-Петербурге в Таврическом дворце с 14 по 18 октября этого года. Россия, как хозяйка проведения 137-й Ассамблеи МПС, гарантирует отсутствие каких-либо ограничений для участников в сессии всех заявленных парламентариев, включая тех, кто был занесен в российский стоп-лист, принятый в ответ на введение санкций со стороны ряда западных стран. Приглашаем парламентариев Парламентской ассамблеи ОБСЕ к участию. Спасибо.
Thank you. So now our time is over. We will continue the debate on the resolution and the consideration of amendments to the draft resolution supplementary items at our next meeting, that is in this room tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Thank you all.